Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zen and Fanfics. Today we are featuring What If Deku Had SCPs Plague Dr. Quirk? The story is written by HectorDeTroie on Wattpad. Before we start, please like and subscribe for more content. Now, let's dive into the story. In the hero society of our current age, the powers and appearance of someone has become a major factor in the future of the individual. This is an aspect of life where humanity has truly advanced backwards rather than forward. You could even say that for certain unfortunate individuals, it was the Middle Age all over again, where your fate was determined at BRTH. If you were to agree with this last comparison, you would find pretty ironic the case of one Izuku Midoryia, for his look is truly on par with this analogy. He was a young boy born in the General Hospital of Mizudafu, who since he CNCPTN bared the appearance of a bubonic plague doctor from the XIVTH century. The doctors were fascinated, as they witnessed the phenomenon and later conducted scans to understand it. The typical mask and garments of this PRD and profession were made of living muscle tissues and bones, and seemed to have grown out of the subject's body over time. They are nearly indistinguishable from whatever form is beneath them. However, X-rays indicate that despite this, the boy does have a humanoid skeletal structure beneath its outer layer. It was also observed and later revealed to his mother that Izuku, despite showing noticeable male characteristics, was in fact asexual. He did not possess any kind of reproductive organs, nor ways to produce SXL hormones. This partially saddened his parents, as it meant that there would be no grandchildren for them. As Izuku grew up, he would prove to have an incredible fast physical and mental development. Where his childhood friend Katsuki Bakugo would just start to talk, he was almost completely fluent in Japanese and would start to write. When Bakugo reached this stage himself, Izuku was already mentally at the level of a young teen. This also made both children diverge in terms of their intellectual interest and hobbies. While Katsuki read comics and watched TV shows about heroes like All Might, Izuku was, since the age he could talk, passionate and dedicated towards medicine. However, and to the surprise of their respective parents, it did not drove them away from each other. Because at the end, in this present society centered around both, heroes and villains always ends up at the center of all topics and interests. For the young Katsuki, like most if not all children of his age, was obsessed by heroes like All Might. It was all about how they were cool, how they never lose, and how popular they were. For Izuku, however, all of his attention was on the villains. Not that he admired them, of course. He was more interested about their apparent enjoyment for sinful acts. Each time he would witness it, there was something in the back of his head, screaming that those individuals were sick, that they were suffering from a terrible disease, which only him could be the cure. Katsuki could not understand what his childhood friend was talking about in that regard, nor did he truly cared about it. For him, like for anyone else, villains were simply bad guys who needed to be beaten up and sent to prison. But since it seemed to be very important for his bird-head friend, they promised each other that he would take care of the villains free, while he took care of them once in prison. It was the day after Izuku's birthday that the Midoryas and the Bakugos would discover the first effect of Izuku's active part of his quirk. It would happen during a regretful event where both families on their way to the quirk doctor would be attacked by a low-class villain. It was a simple robbery attempt where the man, armed with a quirk who turned his arms into saws, threatened to kill them if they did not give them their money. While the Bakugos kept a serious and defiant attitude towards the villain, Izuku Midoryia was quite terrified. The villain was making quite a show and was clearly enjoying himself tormenting his mother. Izuku got a very potent reaction from the villain's wickedness, as he felt something change inside him while the voices were hammering inside his head. After a few seconds of holding his head in pain, something clicked in his head. Suddenly his life, abilities, appearance, and fundamental passion for medicine, biology, and psychology made perfect sense. As the pain in his head and all his doubts disappeared in this very moment, he saw the villain get close to get the money. And in perfect synchronization with the villain, Izuku also moved forward towards his very first patient. Saw villain. Hey kid, what do you think you're doing, you little st? Mitsuki. Izuku, what are you doing? Come back. Inko. Izuku, come back. Izuku, I can see it clearly now. You are suffering from the great pestilence. Saw villain. Nanny. Izuku, do not be afraid. I have the ability to cure you. Stay still for a second. The villain was so taken aback by the young boy's behaviors that he could not prevent Izuku's hand to slightly touch his arm. In the second following the touch, before he had the time to do anything, and even less to retaliate, the villain simply dropped on the floor. The parents and Katsuki, still confused yet relieved about what happened, immediately called the police. However, a nurse not far ahead, they were just in front of the hospital when they got attacked, saw what happened and had already called them. They arrived very shortly after the villain had fallen to the ground like a sack of potato and told Izuku to stay away. A pro-hero who had come with them was a bit anxious once he saw the villain from up close and called a doctor. Pro-hero. So, what happened with the villain? Do you know why he is like this? Mitsuki. Yes, this BSDRD came to us with his saw arms and asked for our money. He said that he would kill us if we did not comply. However, Izuku right here simply touched him, and he dropped like he had a heart attack. Doctor, I'm afraid you more on point that you think with this analogy, madam. Pro-hero. What do you mean? Doctor, I mean that he is dead. Sudden and complete failure of all major organs, including the heart. At the words of the doctor, all people present paled and turned their eyes towards the kid in a bubonic plague doctor's appearance. Izuku, holding his chin with a hand while contemplating the event, simply said, Izuku, it seems that the cure is not complete. Once everyone present had recovered from their initial shock, the pro-hero started to question the parents while Izuku was asked to stay aside and away from everyone. The boy easily complied as he was deep in thoughts, mumbling something about a cure and a terrible scourge that only Heim could see. Inko, while still disturbed by the events, explained that they were here to see Dr. Kyudai Garaki for their children's quirk diagnosis. With this new information, the hero asked if the boy's lethal touch was an already known part of his quirk, making Mitsuki very angry for what the pro was implying. Once he got the answer and managed to calm the Bakugo parents, he assured Inko that her son would not get legally pursued for what happened, and that all of this would be classified as a newly formed quirk accident. After everything was clear, both families with the doctor who came to assist got on their way to Dr. Garaki without any more incidents. Katsuki had his eyes glued on Izuku all the way to the doctor. He loved Izuku almost as a brother would. They were friends almost since they were both born, and he always thought that his friend's quirk was awesome. Plague doctors were still super cool, even in the age of quirks. He could not help but feel sad and fearful of his friend. He was isolated a few feet behind them and away from everyone. His hands were crossed behind his back, and his head was held high as he was humming under his breath, Ring Around the Rosie, while everyone was avoiding him. Yes, he was afraid of Izuku. Of course he was. You are either stupid or crazy if you are not afraid of someone who can kill anything with a mere touch. Soon enough, they reached their destination and were asked to wait while Izuku's situation was explained to Dr. Garaki. Thankfully, the waiting room was empty, which spared them from any constant and fearful gazes of other patients. The Bakugo were the first to pass, leaving Inko fiddling nervously with her purse while Izuku was pacing around still deep in thoughts. It was their turn just as Inko was told by her son that he would need notebooks in the near future. Garaki. Hello, MS and young Midoryia. As you may know, I will be the one in charge of analyzing and registering your son's quirk. However, since young Izuku here present an immediate danger to anyone too close to him, I wish to have my session with him alone to minimize the risks. Inko Why yes, of course. Be careful, sweetie. Izuku. I am always very careful, mother. Have no fear. Garaki. All right, son. Let's get the scanner going, shall we? The doctor brought Midoryia to the scan machine and simply told him to lay down on it. Izuku did so and simply waited while Dr. Garaki was programming the device right. During the few minutes the test took, Midoryia could not prevent his thoughts going back to the incident with the villain. The death of his first patient was partially dissatisfying, although no one would really miss this man, and he would not be persecuted for this event. He couldn't reach out for what he saw inside of him. If only, Garaki. Thinking about the villain you just killed? Don't worry, kid. You should not beat yourself too hard. Accidents happen, you know. Izuku. It is not his death that bothers me, dear doctor. It is something else. something that put in question my medical aptitude. Garaki. What do you mean, kid? Medical aptitude? Izuku. Indeed, since I was born, I felt that my purpose was save the body of its ailments. His loss of life was indeed tragic, to an extent, but I saw something inside of that man, a terrible thing that I wish I could have purged him of. Garaki. And what was it? Izuku. The pestilence, the great dying, the scourge of mankind, the most horrendous, ancient, and terrible disease affecting God's green earth. Garaki. Snorts. Communism? Liberty Prime. Heavy breathing. Izuku. You have quite the sense of humor, dear doctor, but no. It is a vicious affection of the mind, as old as society exists, even older in fact. Though most commonly found in the individuals labeled in society as villains, the pestilence is found everywhere. Certain people are just more adept to mask their symptoms. Garaki. The descriptions still fit. I see. Well, anyway, if you still feel like becoming a doctor or even a surgeon is your call, then I will be more than happy to teach you, kid. Let's call your mother so we can give her the results, okay? Izuku. Thank you kindly for proposing your assistance, doctor. I would be honored to be under your tutelage. Let us inform my mother with the developments. The doctor sent Izuku bring his mother back into his office, while he retrieved the results of the test. He was fascinated by the boy and his quirk. Both brought him a professional excitement that he hadn't felt for a very long time. His MSTR would also surely find interest both in the kid and his quirk. Soon enough, he came back to the Midoriyas with the results. Izuku. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Midoryia. I have the results right here. Are you ready? Inko. Yes, I'm ready. Garaki. Very well. As you must already know, your son's quirk is definitely a mutation type in its core. However, it seems that the deadly aspect of his body, even thought have all the signs of an emitter-type origin, comes directly from his mutation. I'm sorry, Ms. Midoryia, but any kind of quirk suppressants will have an effect on that regard. My best advice would be to give him a cane so he could keep people at bay and interact with them. Plus, it would go well with his medieval plague doctor. Aesthetic? Inko. Barely prevent herself from crying. Okay. I understand, sir. Oh, my poor baby. Garaki. Though do not despair, Ms. Midoryia. There is not only bad news that I'm bringing you. You see, it seems that your son's quirk has an emitter-type property that allows him to see the disease inside a person's body. And since he told me that from the beginning being a doctor was his call in life, I will be more than happy to take him under my wing. Inko, is it true, Izuku? You want to become a doctor? Izuku. Indeed, mother. It is my duty in this life to rid humanity of the greatest scourge in all of its history. I have already accepted the generous proposition that Dr. Garaki has so kindly provided to me. Would you agree? Inko. Oh, of course, my Izuku. If you think this were your future lays, then I will support you all the way and as best as I can. Garaki. Then it is settled, then? For now, I suggest you to keep your son outside of the school system until junior high. Kids are too young and unpredictable in elementary school for him and his quirk. We wouldn't want to have another incident like this morning, no? As for my tutelage, I will first recommend you some medical books that should be more appropriate for a kid of his age. Then I'll teach him directly once his is in junior high. Is that all right? Inko. This is perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Garaki. Come, Izuku. We will celebrate that with Katsudon tonight. Izuku. An acceptable offer, mother. My utmost thanks, dear doctor. Dr. Garaki waved back with a satisfied smile, before watching them both go while still keeping a reasonable distance between each other. Once both out of his office, he pulled out his phone and called someone really important. AFO. Doctor. I can't even remember the last time you contacted me directly from your office. I take it that you have found someone who is worthy of our interest? Garaki. That I did, MSTR? That I did. For the passing years where Izuku should have been in elemental school, his time has been divided between learning online at home and being Dr. Garaki's personal assistant. Midoryia enjoyed his time with the doctor by far the most, and both learned much from each other. While Izuku learned everything about biology, the complex workings of the human body, and the many studies of the brain with an innate ease and expertise that all doctors would kill for, Garaki learned much about Izuku's quirk and mentality. By bringing Midoryia with him during a few medical consultations, Izuku proved him to be as fascinating as he was terrifying. His professional and reassuring persona towards his patients was masking a very cold and scientific mind. Each time after the consultation ended and the patient was sent away, Midoryia showed his disinterest and frustration towards all these people because they were all barely infested with the pestilence, putting his progress towards making the cure indefinitely on hold. The boy was undeniably obsessive about this supposed great dying inherent to mankind. Yet for how much the young boy was talking about it every time he got the chance to, this so-called disease stayed quite a mystery for his medical mentor. Garaki really tried to understand what it was supposed to be. There was no physical disease that were only targeting humans, and even on the psychological side it was still debatable. That was until one fateful discussion that happened a few days ago. Garaki, I have to say, Midoryia, your inner talent for biology and even surgery is truly out of this world. Looks like our guts feeling were correct about your future orientation. You were really born for this. Izuku, my utmost thanks, dear doctor, but I must rectify your thoughts about my purpose in this world. Look back at the door closing behind their last patient. My real mission in life is to eradicate the pestilence from our kind. Garaki, speaking of it, I have thought long and wide about what the pestilence was, and I have come up with a theory. Izuku, a theory? Dear doctor, there is no mystery about the pestilence. You, like any other lucid man, already know about the scourge and its symptoms. You simply are confused because most do not see it as I do. Garaki, what do you mean? Izuku, as I said many times before, the scourge is inherent to mankind and mostly visible in people characterized as villains by our society. But not a single individual of our kind is out of its reach, nor anyone is untouched by it. Garaki, so? I am right. It is a mental illness. Wait, when did you said that it was mostly visible in villains? What do you mean you see it differently from the rest? Izuku, 1. Yes, but deep inside of me I know that it still has a physical origin. You cannot deny that even today we are far from fully understanding the human brain. But my quirk will bring us a way to physically cure this terrible scourge. If I was a religious person, I would say that it's time for humanity to pay its oldest debt toward God, that we get finally free from the consequences brought by the original sin. 2. The first time we met, I had also explained that it was because villains are the most open about their infection, though it is also easily visible on people possessing great power, for it seems to be a great catalyzer for the pestilence to grow and develop. Unfortunately, most people refuse to acknowledge that they are affected, but thanks to my quirk, the great death cannot hide from my gaze, hiding behind lies. 3. I have brought up the analogy of sin and divine punishment because most of you seem to prefer this vision of the pestilence. However, I see the great dying for what it truly is. Where the ignorant masses see 7 different nature of the disease, I see 7 of many symptoms through which the pestilence make its presence known. Where the majority see monsters and devils, I see people victim of a mind-rotting scourge. Garaki, I see. I understand. Izuku, why are you so tense, dear doctor? Does the true nature of the pestilence really terrify you to the point of desperation? Fear not, dear doctor. It is our job as men of science and medicine to fight off incertitudes and the unknown, to destroy the body and mind from any threats. You had determined that my quirk will provide me with a very long life, and I plan to dedicate every second of it to wage war on the pestilence. Garaki, oh, of course, kid. You are by far the best apprentice I ever had, and I would not dare to put your talent and dedication in question. Izuku, very well then. In this case, I will leave you back to your work. Time has passed rather quickly, and I would not leave my poor mother to worry. Farewell, dear doctor. Exit the room and start to walk away before looking back. Do not worry, dear doctor. Once my cure is complete and fully operational, you will be the first one that I shall free from the scourge. Once Garaki was sure that Midoryia went away, he pulled out his phone and immediately dialed AFO's number with sweaty and trembling hands. Once he knew that his MSTR had answered, he took a few minutes to calm himself down and get his breathing back under control. AFO, doctor, I did not expect you to contact me before the end of the week. So tell me, is it about your last Noma project or about the boy? Garaki, Hey, about the boy. I'm sorry, I was wrong about the boy. I missed the signs and completely misinterpreted Midoryia. He is not going to be a powerful ally, sir. He will be a very dangerous threat. The pestilence he is so obsessed with, it's for him the biological factor responsible for villainy. AFO, villainy as being a villain or on a more fundamental level. Garaki, the more fundamental level, MSTR. Why this question? AFO, then he can still be useful. We'll just have to be more subtle. Years passed as Izuku continued to learn medicine and biology under Dr. Garaki's care. His superior intellect and natural talent for anything medical-related made him keep up with studies that are far beyond his age. Now, the boy was well known among the hospital staff and was even authorized to help with a few patients. At 12 years old, his age was now almost the last thing keeping Midoryia from being a part of the staff. Of course, this quickly brought him a lot of attention and fame in the medical world. He was the kind of prodigy that you would see only once in numerous lifetimes. However, it was clear that working in a hospital was not really for him. The common citizens that made most of the hospital's patients were terrified by his appearance, obsession with the pestilence, and of course, his lethal touch. Many had downright refused to be in the same room as him, once they learned of this particular effect of his quirk. Though it did not bother Izuku whatsoever, he was far more interested in practicing medicine in the hero world. After all, this is where he'll find the poor souls affected by the great dying. Garaki was really surprised to see how Midoryia took the fear and accusation of the common people so well. He himself had been criticized and turned to ridicule by many of his colleges when it came to his own research, and he had took it far worse than the boy back then. Izuku, there is no worries to have about the common folks' opinion, dear doctor. When my research will be complete and they witness the results of my work, they will come crawling back to me, asking my forgiveness towards their ignorance. Besides, it is for the good of mankind that do this, not for myself. Garaki was very impressed by the young boy. He had no problem admitting that Izuku truly had earned his respect. His fear towards the boy being on the opposite side for the upcoming events was now replaced by sadness. This Midoryia kid will definitely become his equal someday, and for that he would make sure that the boy's talent would not go to waste. Garaki, you know what, kid? The pro-hero recovery girl is a very old friend of mine. With her being UA's main nurse, I can easily get her to recommend you for the academy. Like me, she will see that your incredible talent must not be wasted. I'm giving you my word. Izuku, this is very kind of you, dear doctor. Once again, I am in your debt. Garaki, don't spit out such nonsense, kid. I will sooner die than see a gem like you not getting at the top where you belong. With that brain and long life of yours, you'll repay me by breaking down all butteries we have in the field. Now go. You're starting your first day in junior high tomorrow. Hop hop. Izuku, my utmost thanks, dear doctor. Until next week, then. It was Monday and the first official day of school. Izuku Midoryia was walking quietly towards his school, with Katsuki Bakugo at his side. They were going at a lazy pace with Midoryia, keeping people and animals alike away from him with his cane, while Bakugo was silently fuming next to him, possibly and seemingly annoyed by the numerous looks they got. As they were reaching all day at junior high and got even more looks, Bakugo couldn't take it anymore. Bakugo, how the fuck are you managing to stay calm with all those FING extras looking at you like dumbass 24/7? I would have exploded long ago. Izuku, I know, my dear friend. To simply put it, reacting to those gazes would only imply that their opinion are somewhat important to me. They are not, and this is the best way to show them this simple fact. Bakugo, as if it was F-King simple. While both stopped to talk, so they can start to concentrate on where they were supposed to go, they heard a bunch of students giggling to their right in an obvious mocking way. Both turned to see three young boys and one girl walking towards them with mischievous smiles on their face. Bakugo turned red from anger and immediately started to make his hands produce sparks, but Izuku used his cane to tell him to calm down. Izuku, please, my friend. We don't need to be in trouble this early. Boy 1. Hey, bird face. Where is your school uniform? You forgot that this is a school and not a carnival hall here? Boy 3. Wouldn't surprise me. He does look live a clown here. Boy 2 and girl. Bakugo, UF Kurs, Izuku. Please, my friend, now to answer your question, my dear childish fellows, what you see here is no mere carnival or Halloween costume. For these are a part of my quirk. They grew on me and are of my flesh and bones. Girl, wait. So technically you're naked? Izuku. Yes. Though I posse's no GNTLS, neither erectum. Boy 2. That's FING freaky. Boy 1. I'm sure this effer is lying. How about I take off your mask to show how much of a moron you are? Izuku. That would be a very bad idea, for your own health. Boy 3. What? You're threatening us? Bakugo. No, F-tards. That's another part of his quirk. Touch him, and all of your organs will simply stop working. On the way to the quirk doctor, a villain found out about that the hard way. With this statement, all the bullies of the group lost their smugness and completely went pale. They had heard and letter read in an articular on the internet about the famous incident. And now they just realized that they were, in fact, talking to the kid who was the cause of the event. They quickly backed away in fear as Midoryia took a step towards them. Boy 1. Babak away. You villain. Izuku. Now, my dear friend, don't speak such nonsense about me being a villain. After all, if I was really one, you would all already be dead by now. Boy 3. Peel please. Izuku. Have no fear. Although you show the starting symptoms of the pestilence, you are not sick yet. Besides, my cure is far from finished for now. Come, Katsuki. We have only a few minutes to reach the main conference room. The principal will soon welcome us all to Aldea and explain about the establishment. Bakugo. And about you. See you later, F-heirs. With that, both walked lazily towards their destination, leaving behind a group of bullies terrified and scared for their lives. Izuku was pleased with how the school's welcome ceremony and presentation went. When he was called forward to reveal and explain his deadly touch after the greeting speech, the people reaction gave him crucial information about them. You see, while the pestilence is more subtle to detect than your average diseases, its symptoms are easier to detect when the patient were not carefully hiding them. Izuku, and all patients suffering from it, cannot hide them when overcome with fear or anger. This was Midoriya's answer. When Bakugo questioned his friend's disturbing happiness towards the extra's negative reaction towards him. And that was not reassuring in the slightest for the explosive blonde. Like all people close to Izuku, he was aware about Midoriya's obsession for this so-called pestilence. But unlike the others, he understood what it was. While Izuku always talked about it in a cryptic way, the concept of the disease was not that hard to understand, especially when you understand what he detects as its symptoms. Not that Katsuki cared of what his childhood friend think villainy is, or how it should be cured, but he know that Midoriya is incredibly determined to eradicate it, and he has seen enough pre-Quirk movies with people trying to cure evil to know how those things usually ended. During the uproar this revelation brought, Midoriya was standing still, scanning and analyzing everyone the same way he would when he was observing samples of BLD in the hospital laboratories. His eyes sometimes twitched as they landed on some with no discernible reason, making them flinch. He was gazing through them, like he could see their souls. And it was terrifying. After half an hour, students were finally given their class and sent away to start their first lesson of the day. Both childhood friends were put into the same one to their enjoyment, while the other students put into their class took their assignment less well. Their homeroom teacher took them to class, and the first lesson begun. Midoriya could already tell that this professor would be one of his future patients. When the first recess came, Izuku already had a few objectives in mind. Firstly, come in contact and befriend the nurse of the school. His already academic knowledge of medicine should help him achieving this goal. Secondly, using school recess times to observe and determine what students are showing significant symptoms of the pestilence. Thirdly, get more information on the purple-haired boy that caught his attention during the presentation. Izuku excused himself to Katsuki, telling that he would join him once he has made acquaintances with the school nurse. When he reached the nursery, he was pleased to see that the middle-aged lady in charge of it was expecting him. She revealed that Dr. Garaki was her old mentor while she was an intern at the hospital where he still is, and that he had talked in length about him to her. They passed the next 10 minutes discussing his medical knowledge and how he could assist her during his 3 years here. One done. He joined back Bakugo, who was outside, already getting attention with his explosive quirk. However, Izuku quickly saw that it was not going well. They were simple-minded idiots stroking his friend's ego, acting like little parasites who hangs on the big predator to feel bigger themselves. They were telling him how awesome he and his quirk were, how he could protect everyone from the killer doctor, as they were now calling him. Unfortunately for them, while Katsuki did have a massive ego and suffered a case of superiority complex, he was not stupid. Besides, for all of his creepy extravagances, Izuku was dangerous only if he wished to be. In fact, Midoriya has never been angry or aggressive in his entire life. The worst he ever felt was irritation when incredulous adults refused to comprehend the pestilence or refute its existence. Anyway, Katsuki's violent answer to their attempt at becoming friends, combined with Izuku making his arrival and presence known, quickly got them to run away. At the end of the recess, both Katsuki and Midoriya separated, as the latest wanted to discuss one last thing with the nurse before going back to class. He reached the nursery soon after and saw that the purple-haired boy was there, sitting on a chair in pain with many bruises on him. Midoriya's medical knowledge and experience at the hospital made him quickly understood where that kind of wounds came from. They were clearly made by other people with the will to cause a lot of pain. What was most peculiar, however, was the marks of a muzzle that was put on the boy. Well, it seems that this boy will be of great help for him to find his first patients. Izuku, excuse me, my dear fellow student. May I ask who did all of this to you? Oh, it's you. Hiss in pain. Why would you care? Izuku, because I wish to become a doctor in the heroic field. Besides, why should I not care about the well-being of a fellow student? Because nobody ever cared about me. Caught BLD in a handkerchief. At first they do, until they learn about my quirk, saying that it is villainous and that will be a villain in the future. Izuku, is that so? Then you seem to have forgotten that we have been put in the same boat. You and I, Shinso. Yeah, right. Sorry about that. Grit his teeth. Midoriya, right? I'm Hitoshi Shinso. Izuku. Very well then, Shinso. How you tell me everything you are conformable with now? End of the classes for this day. Izuku was right. This boy was the perfect candidate to bring him his first victims of the scourge. It was revealed that a certain number of students were to blame for a few of his injuries, but he soon learned that 90% of them, including the marks of a muzzle on his face, were all done by his current adoptive parents. This was a golden opportunity for him. After the last class, Midoriya told Bakugo to not wait for him, as he had special errands to take care of. After that, he left a vocal message to his mother, telling her that he would be a bit late as he wished a few important things before coming back home. Once done, he looked for Hitoshi and proposed him to bring the boy back home. Shinso was taken aback by the request, but quickly accepted it as he knew he would be more safe with Midoriya at his side. They arrived at his home 10 minutes after, with the boy joking that it was the first time he ever got home, not late thanks to Izuku's presence. Indeed, a certain group of bullies that had been accustomed to beat him on the way home had this time to run for their lives. He'll remember them too. Izuku said goodbye to Shinso and fainted to get on his way back home, before finding a dark alley nearby and proceed to hide in it. He looked back from his hiding spot, witnessing Hitoshi being violently shoved inside the house. Then he heard screams and noises of struggles and beating, before saying what he assumed to be the boy's father throwing Shinso outside, yelling at him to go get groceries. This was perfect. He watched while still hidden, the boy slowly crawling away before finally finding the strength to get back on his feet and limp away. Once he was sure that Hitoshi was no way near anymore, he calmly walked to the house and proceeded to ring the bell. Mr. Shinso, I swear to Kami, brat. If it's you still he. Who the FFK are you? Izuku. Greetings, Mr. Shinso. Do not be afraid. I am here to cure your poor soul. Shinso was already dreading what was about to happen. It has been 20 minutes since his bestiality of parents had sent him away to make the groceries for tonight, and he took far longer than he should have because he couldn't find certain beauty products for his mother. Not only that, but he did not even found some of them at the end. Simply living with those freaks was already a hell on itself, but it's even worse when he failed to do what they asked him. At least, Thanks to Midoryia, the journey was 100 times less worse than he had anticipated. In fact, if he had still a sliver of optimism in his heart, he would say that he could finally have a friend. Although there was something truly unsettling about Izuku. Well, like everyone who has a villainous quirk like him, he supposed. It was just, his demeanor was uncannily casual and detached for how he was already getting treated by society. As Shinso saw his house in the distance, he thought back about it for a moment. Now in front of his home, the reason was quite clear. No one can physically harm him, for doing so is simply suicidal in the most literal sense. And if someone was to die that way, he could not be held responsible for it, if he had clearly warned the victim first. Shinso, looks like even between monsters, people are not born equal. As Hitoshi was about to open the door, he felt a very cold chill go down his spine. Brought back to the present by this feeling, he started to use all of his senses in panic as he realized how his current situation felt wrong in a different way. His house was uncannily silent, and a creepy atmosphere was taking over. Slowly, he entered the building as silent as he could, hoping that if there was an intruder, he could take him by surprise. Hitoshi was beyond terrified. His only real line of defense was his quirk, and in those kinds of scenarios, villains are not really inclined to chit-chat. He never, in his whole life, thought that the usual screams and sounds of violence of his house would be something he's missed. But this overwhelming silence, mixed with the darkness of late evening, were far more suffocating than the usual hatred of this place. Shinso, is anybody there? Mom? Dad? Shinso felt his soul jumped out of his body, when the only answer he got was a few loud moans and bestial-like growls coming from the living room. His first thoughts were to find the nearest closet to hide himself in and call the cops, but his ears quickly picked up something weird about the footsteps coming from the living room. They were completely random. There was no clear direction or rhythms to them, as if the ones making them were completely drunk. Eventually, he steeled his resolve. Taking it as it was just his parents getting drunk, he barged into the living room and threw his coat on a chair in a ceremonial way, before turning on the light to see what was the situation. Once he did, he screamed like he never did in his life, as he saw the state of his parents surrounded with so much building. When Eraserhead arrived at the crime scene, he was still playing Tsukauchi's words in his head, when the latest had informed him of the case. At first he was skeptical when the detective told him that it would be the first time he ever saw something like that. As a prolific underground hero for now 17 years, he had met hundreds of villains, vigilants, and madmen, with all of their respective subjectives, kinks, and psychopathic delusions. That was until he saw the victims. While the boy was like many other traumatized souls who saw something that no one should ever see, what was done to the parents was illogical. Truthfully, he had no words to describe what he was seeing, nor could he find ones to hypothesize what went through the killer's head. Well, at least when he saw all the scars on the kid combined with his experience, told him that he should not feel too bad about the parents. Tsukauchi told you that it was another first time for the both of us. You owe me all those future coffees, Erasure. Aizawa. Naomesa. What the hell is this? Tsukauchi. The doc was and is still at a loss for words. Their stomach and upper half of their skull have been removed flawlessly and with surgical precision. Yet what was done after is weird. At first we thought it was the classical organ trafficking, only this time made hastily and on the spot. But from a quick radio made by the doc's quirk, nothing seems to have been taken out except a part of the amygdala. On the contrary, some things were put in. Aizawa. What kind of things? Tsukauchi. We don't know. Apparently it is different kinds of medical-like mixtures, but nothing like the doc had seen before. Also, we have been confirmed that there is no signs of anesthetics inside of their systems. Yet, not only zero screams or noises were reported by the neighbors, but as you can also see, they are still alive. Aizawa. Not completely. They look like freaking zombies. The mental state they are in, is it because of the part of the amygdala being removed? Tsukauchi. I asked the doc, but from what he told me, this removal should have not put them in such a state. Apparently all of their higher brain functions have completely ceased. Your earlier comparison to zombies is far more correct than you think. Aizawa, so we will wait for the final medical reports, but from what the doc can tell us, this is not normal at all on a biological level. It must be a quirk then. Tsukauchi. Most likely, especially because of those unidentified mixtures inside of their bodies. Anyway, first we have to finish getting everything we can here. Then, we will go back to the station and proceed with all the interviews we'll have to conduct. Aizawa. Very well. For now, I will take care of the kid all the way before he can get involved further with this. I'll try to keep up with my work at UA and with you while giving a bit of my time with the kid. From what I saw on him, the parents at least deserved half of their fate. To say that Izuku Midoryia was anxious was an understatement to describe the state she was in right now. When she received the call from a police officer, telling her that her son had to come to the police station so he could be interviewed about a crime committed in one of his friend's house, she had almost fainted on the spot. The first thing she asked, which took the officer completely by surprise, was if her son had again killed someone by accident. She was relieved when the answer was not only no, but that no one was killed. Though, of course, she was asked what she meant by "did my son kill someone again by accident?" which she answered by explaining the deadly properties of her son's quirk. Now she was at the Mizufu police station, sitting with her son in a waiting room and twiddling her thumbs anxiously. While she was more calm, she couldn't help having her gaze constantly switching between a camera in a corner and her son, who was stoic as ever. While she tried to stay calm, Izuku was focused on writing his research on a black leather journal he had recently obtained for himself. After almost 15 minutes of waiting, two men entered the room to sit in front of them. The first one was a middle-aged man with black suit and tie who, while having a tired look, kept himself straight and professional. As for the other man, well, he clearly was in dire need of sleep. His eyes were bloodshot, and his posture made him seem like he would fall dead asleep at any moment given. Sakachi. Greetings, Ms. Inko and Izuku Midoryia. I am Detective Naomasid Sakachi, and this is the pro-hero Eraserhead. We will be the one interviewing you about the Shinso family case. We hope that you can help us with our investigation, young Midoryia. Izuku. Greetings, Detective. A pleasure to meet you both. I would have shook your hands, but alas, my quirk would make this gesture result in your demise. However, it would be my pleasure to help the police in the best of my abilities. Sakachi. Right. Well, since you are bringing that on the table, we can assure you again that you are not a suspect in this case. So you can relax, Ms. Midoryia. Your son is in no troubles. Inko. Yes, thank you again, Detective. Eraserhead. So, kid, can you tell us how the story went from your point of view? Can you confirm that there was nobody else than the Shinso kid and yourself in that street before the tragedy event took place? Izuku. But of course, as you may already know, me and Hitoshi are in the same school. Since I witnessed him being lonely and harassed for having a villainous quirk, I decided to help him and even proposed to accompany him back at his home. Sakachi. So, he is subject to bullying at your school? How bad is it? Izuku. Quite bad. You see, I have always knew that I wanted to become a doctor. Because of this, I have been studying medicine and surgery under Dr. Garaki at the General Hospital for years already. The good doctor would tell you how proficient I am, so much so that the school nurse who was an acquaintance of Dr. Garaki had taken me as an assistant. Eraserhead, I heard about you, kid. Garaki is trying to get you recommended by Recovery Girl, if I remember correctly? Izuku. Indeed, now about Hitoshi. It was the first day of school, and he was already starting to become a regular in the infirmary. I had witnessed his injuries firsthand. Blisters, lacerations, some first-degree burns, traces of a muzzle put on his face. Some were new, but a good amount were old and halfway treated. With that, I already knew that the beatings were also happening at his home. Inko. So why did you not notify the police, honey? This would have been enough to justify an investigation and even an arrest. Izuku. I wanted to witness firsthand the kind of mentally sick individuals those parents were. Besides, having them raided by the police while Hitoshi was still with them could have been dangerous for him, don't you think? Eraserhead. We can arrest mental and abusive parents without putting their victim in danger. It's our job to do so, problem child. Sakachi. Besides, you're wanting to witness firsthand the kind of mentally sick individuals those parents were is incredibly dangerous and irresponsible, kid. Those kind of people are extremely dangerous. Izuku. And my quirk makes me far more dangerous to them than they could ever be to me. But in the end, I didn't even need to be in their direct presence to understand how sick they were. When Hitoshi and I arrived near his house, their loud arguments and profanities could be heard from across the street. Inko, poor boy. Those people were sickening. Eraserhead. You have no idea, Mom? But we still have to catch the psycho who turned them into some kind of brain-dead zombies. So, problem child, can you confirm that there was no one present except the two of you back then? Izuku, I can confirm this fact, dear sir. Not even a head picking out of a window in curiosity of the altercation. Supposedly, this was common enough for no one to care about. Hitoshi and I quickly departed from each other once we had arrived, as he did not wish for me to get involved in it. Sakachi. Very well then, this doesn't help us that much, but at least you have confirmed everything we already know. Thank you kindly for your help, Midoryia, as well as for your presence, Ms. Inko. Izuku. It was my pleasure, good sir. Inko. Thank you, detective. We're sorry that cannot help. You more than that. Eraserhead. From what I already know about you, and how Recovery Girl seemed quite excited about taking a new pupil after so long, we're going to see each other at UA, problem child. You better not become a future headache with that deadly quirk of yours. Izuku. Have no worries, good sir. I am a doctor first and foremost, not a troublemaker. With those words, both Midoryia exited the room, while the detective and pro-hero secretly exchanged a worried/exhausted look at each other. As they were making their way back home, Izuku was finishing writing on his journal his results and observations from treating both Hitoshi parents. He had no worries about someone reading it, as no one could understand it but him. As his research and work on the cure was extremely important, he has made an entire language composed of symbols and runes he created. He gave it a purposely confusing vocabulary and way to syntax sentences. No one would prevent him from saving humanity from the pestilence. The 3 years of junior high went by without any too troublesome events, both for Midoryia and Shinso. While Hitoshi was not suspected by the police and even proven innocent for the horrible act against his parents, most students and even teachers of the school still believed him to be the culprit. Though he hated that he was now labeled a psychopath by all those idiots, he could not deny his satisfaction for the newfound fear he generated on them. That, combined with his newfound friendship with Izuku, made no one dare to bother him again, even less beating him. As for Midoryia, those 3 years have been extremely busy to say the least. He was balancing his time between his normal learning at school, working at the nursery with patients that were extremely afraid of him, which always made the process tedious as well as dangerous, and finally finding individuals out there that were infected with the pestilence, so he could develop the cure. This last activity being by far the most time and mentally consuming, for the police force and heroes were hell-bent on stopping his research. He managed to find 23 more patients during all those 3 years, almost all of them being small-time villains who he found during his usual night walks. With each new cases of the disease, he learned more about his powers and their relation to the Great Scourge, as well as how he could use them to cure those people. For now, his cure is still not complete, as his latest patient ended up not a zombie, but empty shells of their former selves. While the results shown were improvement in comparison to the first cases, they are still not cured. In any case, his more illegal but most important work has already gained a significant amount of notoriety in Japan. The decreasing severity of the after effects on his patients from his tests and his obvious expertise in medicine gave to his criminal alter ego the reputation of a crazy and psychopathic doctor experimenting on villains, trying to brainwash them by modifying their brains. This affair took the media by storm and greatly divided the people, especially when his victims ended with enough of their mind and started calling him the Doctor of Ethics. Since none of his patients were in stable enough state of mind when he was present and already had been ruled out for the first murder, he was not suspected. Even though his wish of curing the villains from the pestilence could be reminiscing of what the Doctor of Ethics was wishing to do, the only known part of his quirk was covering him. Detective Tsukaushi and Eraserhead tried to determine if he could have any possible accompli, but no results on that regard. Besides, his overall personality did not correspond with the profile they were looking for. This allowed those years to pass without major concern, and they now had reached the last day of junior high. As the last hour of class was nearing its end, and the homework teacher prepared himself for his usual last-year speech, Izuku was finishing to write his notes on the latest subject he had a few days ago. The speech, Cries of excitement from his class and the declaration of his friend Bakugo were drowned down by his internal thinking and thoughts. He was ecstatic with his latest advancement on the cure and a recent call from Recovery Girl. His constant work on his cure during junior high had allowed great improvements for treating his patients, fallen victim of the Great Scourge. His latest test on the frontal lobe of the human brain, the part responsible for empathy, can be used to combat the pestilence. Direct influence against the disease was possible, and this brought forward a brand new perspective to explore. As for Recovery Girl, she contacted him directly for the first time to confirm her interest in him. She told Izuku that she got permission from Nezu to give him a special entrance exam more fitted for his expertise. This last week was truly a success. The last hour of school soon ended after an outburst from most of his classmates, unhappy that two future villains were trying to get into UA. Their opinion was of course quickly shut down by Bakugo, Shinso, and Midoryia, respectively, remembering them that 1. Extras who can't get into UA should not be allowed to even have an opinion about that too, while they have done nothing but bing about the two of them. They had worked hard to have that chance. 3. Their incessant cries are disturbing the class and their work. Each member of the trio departed from the school on their own ways. As Hitoshi's house was on the opposite direction, and Izuku decided to start his night walk a lot earlier than usual this day. He took less frequented streets and went for darkest parts of the town in hopes of finding more victims of the pestilence to cure. His wish would end up being granted when he reached the path going under one of the city's many bridges, as once he had almost crossed it, a disgusting sound made itself known behind him. He calmly turned around to see one terrible sight. A victim of the scourge appeared on the path after going through a hatch separating the sewers from the outside. The individual wore a truly repulsive appearance, the one of a green pile of slime and goo, carrying with it the horrendous stench of the place it just came from. The poor soul in question had a terrified and desperate look in his eyes as he was looking everywhere erratically, certainly looking for his help. However disgraceful his patients would be, he will save them from it. Izuku. Oh my. What a saddening sight to behold. To think that the pestilence can have such horrible side effects when in a stage as advanced as in your case. However, you are lucky to have found me. Fear not, my dear fellow, for I will cleanse you of this terrible scourge. Slime villain. Wah, what the hell? Izuku, there is no need for you to panic. I'm here to help you. Slime villain, I don't have time for this SDU creeps. He is coming. So, FING die and give me your body. Midoryia was quite surprised by the outburst of this villain, and before he could retort, the slime fiend had lunged himself at him to suffocate him. Unfortunately for the villain, he didn't know that a physical touch was exactly what Izuku was looking for, and his attack only resulted in the young doctor swimming himself out off a dead body made of sludge. This process was shortened by none other than All Might bursting from the sewers and using his Detroit smash to clean the villain's corpse out of Midoryia. All Might. Fear. Not. Why? Because I am here. Izuku. Oh dear. This was an unforeseen development for Midoryia, to say the least. While he cleaned himself of the repugnant slime still on him, in front of a surprised All Might standing there half dumbfounded, since he expected him to be far more in distress. After quickly regaining his composure and usual on-field attitude, the number one hero proceeded to make his way towards the teenage doctor to ask how he was doing. This made Izuku react quickly to prevent a terrible accident. All Might. Do not worry, young man. I'm taking in this villain. Why is he dressed as a plague doctor? Is he a villain? Do you have any injuries, or? Izuku uses his cane to keep All Might away. Greetings, Sir Might. Although this is a pleasant surprise to meet you in such circumstances, I must ask you to keep yourself a bit away from me. You see, my quirk makes all main biological functions of an individual to cease functioning if they touches me. All Might. Oh my God. You actually just saved my life, young man. Wait, your quirk extend to your clothes? Why are you dressed like a plague doctor? Does that mean that you... Izuku. Yes, this poor slimy fellow has indeed passed away, as he was not aware of my quirk effect. As for your first question, those garments representative of that old profession are actually a part of my quirk. You see, they have grown on me and are of flesh and bones. So, in technical terms, I am naked. All Might. Naked? Oh my god. Izuku. Have no worries, good sir. I possess no SXL organs nor rectum, so there is no need for you to avert your gaze. All Might. Oh. Very well then, my apology for overreacting. Izuku. Of course, good sir All Might. I appreciate your concern for my modesty. All Might. So, his death was not your intention if I understand correctly? Izuku. Indeed. What a shame. Now this villain fellow has become yet another poor soul fallen victim to the pestilence. Once again, one that I couldn't have saved. All Might. Poor soul? The pestilence? Saved? What are you talking about, young man? This villain did not seem to be sick. On the contrary, he gave me quite a hard time. Izuku. Do not be fooled, good sir. This fiend may have been in good health in all biological ways, but his mind and spirit have been deeply infected. The pestilence is the oldest, most deceiving and cruel scourge plaguing mankind. Its full symptoms are found in the actions of the humans it latches on. The 7 sins, murder, cruelty, and SDSM, all are the most prominent signs of its corruption. And it is my duty as a doctor born with my powers to eradicate the pestilence from the face of the earth. All Might. This is very heroic of you, young man. How about you help me gather this villain and bring him to the police station? Like that we will be able to explain them what exactly transpired, all right? I still have around an hour and a half before OFA run out, so it should be enough. Izuku. This is an excellent idea, good sir All Might. Besides, the nearest police station is the one Detective Tsukauchi work at, is it not? He knows of me already, so it should make everything easier for us. All Might. Excellent then. Let's make it kick, shall we? After finished gathering all parts of the slime villain in a cardboard box conveniently left nearby, both All Might and Izuku Midoryia made their way to the police station, while the number 1 hero was occupied carrying the box containing the villain and dealing with fans coming for him. Midoryia was focused on updating his encrypted journal with his last observations and notes. After a 25 minutes walk and getting the press and fans away without being rude, they finally reached the police station. While everyone working here were accustomed to see both All Might and Izuku here, the pro hero for obvious reasons and the young doc for rare incidents and many false accusations, they did not expect to see both of them coming here together, and apparently for the same reason. Soon enough, they were brought to an interrogation room and wait for the detective to come. The box containing the slime villain corpse was taken care of for them once All Might had told them what was inside and briefly explained why. They waited for Tsukauchi in an awkward silence as Izuku looked around the room with great curiosity. It is not the first time that he had been in an interrogation room, but when he had, he never got the chance to look around. Tsukauchi. I am here, excuse me for the delay, but we are slightly overworked right now. All Might. No problem, really, detective. Izuku. You have no need for excuses, dear detective. It is really heart-wrenching to learn of such terrible news. The pestilence is spreading wildly and has gained an alarming rate of propagation those last years. Tsukauchi. Sight. Izuku Midoryia. Why am I not surprised to see my 2 most regular visitors here together, and for the same reason? Come with me to my office. You can explain everything there, and my intuition tells me that I will need a lot of coffee for this. 8 minutes later. Tsukauchi. So, what is it about this time? All Might. All right. Do you remember the slime villain who started pickpocketing civilians a few blocks near? Tsukauchi. Yes, he started a few weeks ago, if I remember correctly. A few murders to pack with that, if I'm not mistaken. Suffocating them to hide inside their body after that. Using them as a disguise. Sick freak. All Might. Indeed. Well, today, and unfortunately for him, I was nearby doing groceries when he robbed a poor old lady of her purse. Seeing that, I quickly took after him. But this villain was quite the slippery one and almost managed to lost me in the sewers. Tsukauchi. The slime villain escaping through the sewers, hey? How fitting. Now may I know when Midoryia comes into play here? Izuku. Very simple, dear detective. This slimy fiend happened to escape the sewers via an exit that led to a small passage under one of the city bridge. A passage I happened to be using to get back home when he arrived there. Not knowing about my quirk, he tried to take over my body. Tsukauchi. Oh, so I assumed that he is dead then? All Might. Yes, We gathered as much as we could of his body and put it into a cardboard box we found nearby. Your men are already taking care of it. Sakachi. Sight. Very well then. Izuku Midoryia, I will need you to fill your deposition and the usual document for accidents with your quirk. Then you will be able to go while I finish this business with All Might, who will serve as the witness to clear you out. Izuku. That sounds reasonable. Would that be all right with you? Dear Sir All Might? All Might. No problem, young Midoryia. You have my trust and faith, because if you had ill intentions you would have not saved me from your own quirk. Here it was, a day that the problematic trio of Aldea was waiting and preparing for during most of their lives. They did not bother meeting up before going to UA, preferring not to become a distraction for each other. Besides, doing so would have made the trip take more time at the end. Anyway, Shinso and Bakugo should find each other at the exam, since they are both going for the same course and both are not recommended. As for Izuku, he has received instructions on the day prior to attend the exam in another section reserved for recommended students. A message from the principal of the school also informed him that he would be supervised by Recovery Girl during the exam, as she planned to test all of his medical skills and knowledge. Apparently, it was very rare for people with medical interest to pursue heroic like she did, so he was a special case this year. Nothing of importance happened to Midoryia before he reached his destination, though he had to awkwardly prevent a clumsy and a bubbly girl from face-planting with his cane after tripping on a sidewalk defect by accident. He almost regretted his decision, as the teenager now known as Achiko Uraraka almost killed herself by jumping on Izuku for a hug. It took 5 minutes to get her to calm down after that, explaining her that he shoved her away with his cane because any physical contact between them would have ended her life. Once everything was cleared out, both separated and went to their respective destination. Once again, he had to go on his way under the many wary gaze of other students who just learned of his mortal touch. Fortunately, as he arrived to where the exam for the recommended students was being held, he learned that everyone here had been briefed in advance about the danger of his quirk. Too bad they didn't think of informing the whole school the day prior. All the other students present were watching him when the principal present told them that he was the person to never be touched, not that it was bothering him, as he was accustomed to this situation for a long time now. However, he felt that for once the gaze of others were less negative and more filled with curiosity towards him. He can work with that. Soon enough, the principal's presentation speech was over, and they were directed to a room for the written part. He was sighted right next to a girl with long black hair tied in a high ponytail, and who possessed quite the generous female attributes. Not that he could ever care about the SXL appeal it could provide. He could easily tell that she was an upper class, as her general posture and demeanor were not subtle enough for him. He can easily recognize when someone has been well thought in how to be a lady. Besides, the clothes were quite the given anyway. Before they each received their respective test, which he learned that his own was one specially tailored for him by Recovery Girl, they took time to chat for a bit. Their conversation was cordial and pleasant and quickly focused on their respective motivations and reasons to pursue heroism as their Kara. To say that she, now known as Momo Yaoyorozu, was surprised and impressed by Midoriya's wish to become a hero like Recovery Girl despised the major drawback of his quirk was quite the understatement. It amused him a bit. Nedzu. All right, students, the test begins now. You have 1 hour, so good luck. The hour had passed with both Midoriya and Yaoyorozu having finished 15 minutes in advance. The both leave the exam room at the same time. Both continued their conversation, which was now focused on Izuku's main and ultimate goal, the eradication of the pestilence. At first, she was taken aback by all the fervor and passion Midoriya held for his combat against the most heinous and terrible scourge of mankind. However, while all of this made Izuku an admirable person, her anxiousness grew quite a lot when she understood what the pestilence was. Izuku. Since the passing of All Might's golden age and the diminishing of his appearances, this cursed plague has started to spread again like wildfire. Take a few minutes to look at any news TV stations and you shall witness all of its most horrendous symptoms omnipresent. Greed, sloth, gluttony, luxury, wrath, envy, and pride. Murderous individuals lurking in every dark corner of our society. Momo I see. Izuku. Of course, you would be blind to not see it. Because of this, as a person blessed to come in this world with the inherent ability to see and cure this scourge, it is my duty to rid the world of its existence. Once my cure is done and fully operational, I will free all of those poor souls who are infected by the pestilence. Prison shall become obsolete. Momo, that is a very noble goal, Midoryia-san. I don't know about your vision of the situation, but if you really think you can succeed, then you have my full support. Quirks are still mostly a big mystery, so yours may very well become a cure for villainy. A future where prisons become useless is indeed very appealing. Izuku, prisons are just the most despicable kind of quarantine centers in the world, specialized in victims of the pestilence. Once I have graduated, Tartarus will become the world's very first treatment center for this despicable scourge, that you have my words on that. Momo, and I can only hope to see you victorious in this endeavor. If this project is realized, have my words that I will be there at the front seats. Izuku, your enthusiasm, while tempered, is very appreciated, Miss Yaoyorozu. Now, if you may excuse me, but I have to meet up with Recovery Girl, who is waiting for me as we speak. Courtesy would ask me to shake your hand, but we both know it would have dire repercussions on your health. I do hope to meet you again at UA in the near future. Turns around and leave Momo. Yeah. Nervous laugh, me too. Midoryia. As he was following the instructions to meet Recovery Girl for the second part of the exam, Izuku realized that he was supposed to get where the students without recommendations were to pass their own physical trial. While it brought him mild confusion at first, it soon hit him that far more injuries would happen there. Not that it bothered him in any way. After all, more pressure and work means more optimal measures of his skills in the end. In fact, he was quite delighted for it to go that way, although for another reason. The recommended students represents a small minority of the examinees trying their luck in the entrance exam, and while pride could be a well-represented symptom for those few chosen ones, any young aspiring heroes trying to get in UA are expected to have their fair share of it. The seeds of the pestilence evolve into the second stage of the scourge in the last teenage years of an individual. This was the perfect opportunity to detect infections prematurely. Nedzu has directly sent him on his way to one bus for the fake cities, one taken by Present Mike and Recovery Girl, as they both directly intervened in the physical test as medical staff and the announcer respectively. Midoryia arrived to see only Recovery Girl present in front of the bus and waiting for his arrival. Both amicably presented themselves, with Izuku preventally warned her about shaking hands as a greetings with an amused tone. This actually brought a small smile to the old hero's face, to his great surprise. Izuku, well, Miss Shizenji, I am now in your custody. What did dear Dr. Garaki say about me? I hope he didn't exacerbate my abilities like he tends to do. Recovery Girl, exacerbate someone's potential? That would be the last thing I could possibly expect from Dr. Garaki. Most of the time his apprentices tend to be put down with how harsh he always is. Don't doubt yourself because of how over the top he can be, young man. When Garaki gives someone praises, he means every single one of them. Izuku, then I am pleased to see that my hard work has earned me his respect and trust. My love and concern for the well-being of other individuals were inherited from my very nature. For me, all vices, physical or mental, can and must be cured. Recovery Girl, happy to see that my future personal student and assistant is on the same wave as me. Though I must warn you that every single students and heroes in this school will test your resolve, time and time again. It's your ability to stand this, that I will. Izuku, your concern for my own mental health is appreciated, Ms. Shizenji. However, wouldn't it be wiser to see me in action before putting so much faith in my abilities? Recovery Girl, I know Garaki well enough to have complete faith in his judgment concerning your abilities and knowledge. Besides, having already saved as much lives as you did under him, and having almost the level of a doctoral student at the age of 15, all of this while also having the worst quirk possible for the profession, how can I be worried about that? Izuku, yes, there is undeniable truth in this. However, I have yet to show the same prowess on the field. Recovery Girl, and that will be what I shall test you on today, as well as your ability to reassure a wounded individual when and after an attack, even after informing them of your death touch for their own safety. Of course, I doubt that it will be perfect, so don't worry too much about passing the test or not because of that. Unless it's truly catastrophic. The real challenge will be once you enter UA and have to deal with the recklessness of all those younglings. Izuku. Then I can put your concerns at ease about this terrible challenge that is to come. After all, I could never be mad at an individual for being infected by the pestilence. Recovery girl, whatever you say, we'll see soon enough. Ah, there is Mike. Present Mike. Hello, Chio. Hello, little listener. Izuku. Greetings, M. Yamada. My pleasure to meet you. I don't know how much you have been informed about me, so how much an explanation is needed? Present Mike. Happy to meet you to little listener. As for your question, not much. I know that you're going to be Chio's assistant and personal student, and about the no-touchy thing with your quirk. Izuku. Excellent. Let's proceed then. The three of them took their bus soon after, one that they were sharing with a few examinees. Because of his impressive height of 2 meters, 6.56 feet, and his quirk covering his entire body but his eyes, most students in the bus had mistaken him for a pro hero and a UA teacher, since he also stayed close with Recovery Girl and Present Mike. This amused him greatly, although he didn't show it. The bus ride went without any issues as he passed time, observing the examinees behind with a cold and calculating glare, trying to detect any traces of the pestilence. This ended with him and the 2 heroes exiting the vehicle after the students accompanying them, who were now 10 times more stressed than before. Both him and Recovery Girl separated from Present Mike as they made their way to the observation and medical room, overseeing the entire facility where the physical exam took place. She then explained to him that medical bots would bring them the students forced to forfeit because of injuries. After that, once the exam is over, they would both go down to take care of the one still standing or not. Both proceed to get on the helipad where the medic bots would deliver them the students in need of medical attention to overwatch the exam. Needless to say, the moment the exam begun, he knew where Bakugo was. Finding Shinso was also not too complicated, as he was one of the last getting in action. Midoryia also soon surprised himself looking for the young girl that almost met her demise because of his quirk at the front of the school. She seemed to do well enough. Anyway, when Izuku was not busy taking care of injured examinees, who were quite numerous, thank God Recovery Girl was here, because a dozen of them almost died by panicking after he warned them of his lethal touch. He observed carefully from the helipad and with monitoring screens every single student's, making sure none infected by the Great Dying would pass him undetected. The last minutes with the zero-pointer proved to be quite informative and revealing of the symptoms many of them desperately tries to hide. Satisfied with his work and the list of future patients now written in his notebook, he went down to help the students who made it to the end, including the girl he saved from embarrassment and death a few hours ago. Shinso had just saved her from being crushed by the zero-pointer. He was still at her side when him and Recovery Girl arrived. Knowing why he was here and about his lethal touch, Hitoshi cleared the way for him so he could work without risks, which he was very grateful for. Not long after, the both of them meet up with Katsuki outside before going each on their way home. Izuku was happy with how the day went. Miss Shizenji seemed quite satisfied with his work, and he had now 25 fewer patients to take care of. Everything was going well. It was going to be an exhausting year. Eraserhead could already tell. While he is glad that his new first-year class had 10 times more potential than the previous one, who he had expelled to the last at the end of second day, he already saw how unsufferable some of them were going to be. First, there was Bakugo Katsuki, with his personality and attitude both as pleasant and loud as his quirk. He came from Aldea Junior High, the same school and class as 2 other problem children know as Shinso Hitoshi and Midoryia Izuku. Those 3 makes him main, upcoming headache of his new class. Aizawa. Gonna have to look up this school later. Shoto Todoroki, the last son Endeavor, alias the number 1 prick in Japan. From what he saw on the boy's writing exam and what he know about his douchebag of an old man, he already know the kind of animal he will have to deal with. Tenya Ida, who comes from a greatly respected and well-established family of pro-heroes. His incidents in the entrance exam already make him want to send the boy through hell. Minoru Mineta, already preparing to expel the pervert midget as soon as he can. Mina Ashido and Denki Miminari, Their answers on the written exam almost made him quit. Sighing in frustration, Eraserhead crawled towards his classroom and his signature sleeping bag, focusing on which brats he will have to prioritize. As he was getting close, his mind went back on both Shinso Hitoshi and Midoryia Izuku, his two main problem children. Those two were special cases, as neither were lacking mental or physical faculties, nor did they show any problematic behaviors. Shinso is very smart and know how to stay out of trouble, while Midoryia is a genius and a prodigy in medical science, who is already more cordial and professional than many adults he knows. The problem was the dangerous combination between their quirk and mental state. Both have been directly involved in the Doctor of Sin's first diagnosis case, which left behind Shinso's adoptive parents in an almost brain-dead state. While Midoryia already had his disturbing obsession of curing Villainy, this event seemed to have given the boy a worrying enthusiasm. As for Shinso Hitcher, Eraser did not like how he seems to take Midoryia as a model. Aizawa, if I survive this year, the rat better give me raise and compensations. Aizawa, if you're here to make friends, then you can already pack up your stuff and leave. You are in UA here, the best heroic school in all Japan, not kindergarten. Most of Class 1A turned around to have their eyes comically widen as they saw Eraser's head pop out of a yellow sleeping bag, with the sleepiest poker face they had ever seen. After a few seconds, he got on his feet and shed his sleeping bag in front of a completely silent class, which students stayed quiet because of the shock. Once sure they would not talk again, he began. Aizawa, it took you all 7 minutes to quiet down and be focused. That will not do. If you ever wish to become pro-heroes, you'll have to stop wasting time, or someone will get killed. My name is Shota Aizawa, alias the underground hero Eraserhead, alias your homework teacher. Now, all of you sit down before I start expelling. Mina, expelling. Dinky, you can't do that. Aizawa, care to try and find out? Here in UA, we have a policy of freedom when it comes to teaching, which means that each teachers are free to run their class as they want. So don't play this game with me, because you will lose. Needless to say, it took 5 seconds for the entire class to be in order, which made Aizawa warn his signature, sadistic grin behind his scarf. God, he loves putting others in their place. As he scanned everyone with his quirk activated to keep the intimidation up, he quickly realized that a certain main problem child was missing. Pishing his nose in exasperation, he looked at Bakugo while already wishing for Kofi. Aizawa, first day of class, and I see that already one of you is missing. Where is Midoryia? Bakugo, with the short old hag and the rat in orientation, so there is no accident with his quirk. He'll join us in 45 minutes once everyone is informed. Aizawa, sigh, thank you for telling me, but you'll have to learn respect when it comes to your teachers and other members of the staff, Bakugo. If you want to stay here, that is, Bakugo. Whatever, Aizawa, anyway, we are not going to lose time in a useless ceremony, so we'll get straight to a quirk apprehension tests. So take those sport uniforms and meet me outside behind Building C. You have 20 minutes to be ready and at my side. Shinso, wait, sensei, you have to tell about Mido. And he is gone? Seriously? Bakugo, FING hobo is going to get someone killed. The orientation ceremony was finally over and Izuku was overhauled, quite satisfied with the results. Thanks to Principal Nedzu's impeccable skills in oration and the help of Recovery Girl, every students and members of the staff were put enough at ease with his quirk. While many really did not look forward to end up in the infirmary, the promise that I would never have to directly touch anyone seemed to be enough for now. This brought us to now, where Midoryia was directed by Nedzu to where I would find my class and Aizawa. It appeared the principal expected his homework teacher to bring his class directly outside for a quirk apprehension test, which was infuriating Recovery Girl, telling me to be ready for a lot of work coming from his own class. He didn't mind. Aizawa. Midoryia. Good timing, your classmates just finished their test. Now it's your turn. Izuku. Very well, though is it really necessary, sir? For I am planning to be a medical hero in the end. Although I may find myself on the field to also bring first aid. That is true. Aizawa. Indeed, Midoryia. Also, most of the time, medical personnel have to wait for the rescue heroes to terraform them away in. If you could become one of the few that don't have to, it would be good. Ida, excuse me, but what do you think you're doing dressing like that? Do you have any respect for this prestigious establishment? Shinso, stop. Don't touch him. Just before Tenya could make the last mistake of his life, Aizawa sent his scarf to prevent it from happening. However, he was slower than Bakugo, who had propulsed himself to Ida with his explosions to tackle him out of the way. Bakugo, God fing minute 4 eyes. You and your dumb wish to correct everyone. Get that stick out of your A and start using your brain. Ijiro, what the hell, Baku bro? That is so unmanly. Momo, Aizawa-sensei, do something. This is unprovoked aggression. Shinso, this is not aggression. Calm down. If Aizawa had not left the class earlier in such a hurry, you would know that Katsuki just saved this idiot's life. Everyone what? Saved his life? Tokoyami, what do you mean by saving his life? Aizawa, sigh, indeed my bad. You see, Midoryia has an extremely dangerous quirk that causes any biological function of anyone or anything that touches him to cease instantly, which means that Bakugo did indeed save Tenya's life in the most literal way possible. This new information made everyone, except of course Shinso and Bakugo, to get their face a few shades whiter. Especially Ida, who just realized how close he was to be dead, and how his impulsive actions almost killed him. Ochako, so this plague doctor outfit is some kind of protection? Really cool. I dig the style, by the way. Izuku, I'm afraid that this is a common misconception about me. You see, those garments are not clothes, but a part of myself. They're made of muscles and bones, and are indistinguishable from my body. Jiro, wait, so that means that... Izuku, I'm technically naked, yes. However, before you start panicking, know that I do not possess any reproductive organs, nor a rectum. There is nothing hidden behind anything. Everyone, phew. Aizawa, sigh. All right, everyone, we have lost enough time. Midoryia, it's your turn. The first few days at UA proved to be mostly uneventful for Izuku. The Quirk apprehension test from Aizawa-sensei was not much of a concern for him, as he was more than capable physically, even making a lot of people surprised by finishing third at the grip strength test with a result of 97 kilograms and second at the endurance test. He also got fifth at the 50 meters sprint with 5, 3 seconds, and 132 meters for the ball throw. In the end, he ended up at the 12th place for poor performances for the high jump test and anything about flexibility. The test ended with them going back to the locker rooms with one less student in their class because of Mineta being expelled. Firstly, for ending up last at the Quirk apprehension test, which was Aizawa's punishment for them daring to think that the hero course would be fun. Secondly, because of the peeping hole incident a few minutes prior in the locker rooms, combined with his multiple attempts of molesting the female students during the test. For Midoryia, he would be his perfect next patient once the day was over. While Izuku had no needs of changing his clothes, he still accompanied the rest of his class to the locker room to make better acquaintances with the rest of his class. After everyone taking a few minutes to recover from Mineta's first-day expulsion, Ida near-death experience, and being around someone that will kill you if accidentally bump into him, their class regrouped outside to have everyone present themselves. It went pretty well, and a cheerful ambience took over again. Izuku was pleased to see the others warm up quickly to him thanks to his pleasant and manly personality. The rest of the day went on, and the rest of the class soon discovered that he would not be with them for every classes, specifically the science ones. He passed those hours as recovery girl's assistant at the infirmary, for while the first years would not get combat training this early, the second and third years do. Fortunately, for being far more experienced, they tend to give them far less work. This gave him a good amount of free time when they have no patience for his genius, and experience in the medical field did not give RG much to teach him outside of some first aid more advanced procedures. He used this opportunity to get every resources made available for him in UA to develop his thesis, advance his professional work, and deepen his research on the human mind for his cure against the pestilence. While Midoryia kept all of this mostly private, he could not totally deny his new mentor's curiosity and interest over his private medical research, and began to grow quite irritated of her concern for his mental health and the questionable morality of his life work. Why does people fail to understand? It is his duty as a doctor with his gift to rid humanity of the great scourge. They should rejoice of his dedication. The end of the day came, and I was satisfied with the progress made for my cure. With the recent knowledge acquired by crossing what I could learn form an hour discussion with Hound Dog, the results of my intervention with old Shinso's parents, a private meeting with Nedzu requested by the latest and intense research through the materials provided by the school's library, I was very confident that my next version of my cure should provide far more satisfactory results. I learned from the principal that my Netta had ended up being given a second change and had joined back 1A while I was at my post in the infirmary. This was a golden opportunity for me to help cure this poor soul from the SXL aspect of the pestilence. I joined the rest of my class at the end of the day, tried to find where the sick young fellow was. This proved to be not very difficult, as he was pretty much ostracized by the rest of class since Izawa revealed what he tried to do during the test. This is very terrible how lives can be bitten down so young because of the pestilence. Mina, I can't believe they're giving him a second chance after what he tried in the test. Ida, I agree, but if the great heroes of UA think he deserves one, then we should faith in their judgment. Ochako, maybe, but I really don't want to have 3 years where I'll have to constantly look over my shoulder because of him. Ijiro, yeah, this guy is terribly unmanly. Bakugo, I'm so ready to destroy this efferer if he tries anything. Shinso, he is certainly not getting any sympathy from me. Tokoyami, who would give him any? He is a very dark person. Izuku, you should not be too harsh on this poor soul. To be this infected by the pestilence this young is a terrible fate. Dinky, what do you mean? He is sick? Ochako, the pestilence? Never heard of it. It does sounds terrible though. Bakugo, for FK Sake's bird face. Don't start with your creepy SD. Ida, Bakugo, this is no proper way to speak to your classmate. Izuku, have no worries, dear friend. Now if you may excuse me, but I have a future patient in dire need of my assistance. I promptly leave my class behind as Miss Yaoyorozu joins the conversation to explain what I meant by my Netta being infected by the pestilence. After a few minutes, I could see all of their worried gaze on the back of my neck as I was joining my future patient on his way back home. After reassuring him that I wasn't there to beat him to a pulp or yell at him, I offered to walk him home and help him heal along the way. My Netta, thank you very much, Midoryia. You're a real one. Izuku, of course, my friend. It is my duty, after all, to assist the people in mental and medical need like yourself. Thank you for joining us on this journey through What If Deku Had SCP's Plague, Dr. Quirk. We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to HectorDeTroie for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on Wattpad for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zen and Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section. See you soon in the next video.